Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video, I'm going to focus on giving you a best class setup for every weapon in Call of Duty Black Ops 4 after the 1.13 update. Personally, I think this is one of the biggest updates that we've had in the game in quite some time. Even when we had that big balancing update back in December, it had nowhere near as big an impact as this current 1.13 update. So to be as specific as possible, in this video, I'm going to give you a best class setup for every primary and every secondary in the game. So the video is going to include a best class setup for all the rifles, all the SMGs, all the tactical rifles, all the LMGs, the sniper rifles, the pistols, the launcher, the shotguns, as well as the melee weapons. It will also include a best class setup for all of the brand new DLC weapons, as well as any of the DLC weapons that have been added over the game's life cycle. Also, don't forget to make sure you hit that like button if you do enjoy the video or find any of the class setups helpful. And currently on YouTube, it's telling me that 90% of the people that watch my videos on a regular basis are not currently subscribed. So if you're one of those 90% that have not hit that subscribe button, definitely go ahead and remember to do that with notifications on so you can find your way back to the channel. And that is, again, if you are enjoying the content. So to keep it as simple as possible, what I decided to do is focus on the perks that I would use for most of these class setups. So you're going to see a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10 on most of these class setups. And all that really means is that's how many of the pick 10 slots I'm using with the class setup. So if I'm using 7 out of the 10, these are the most common 4 sets of perks that I would use. And if it's 8 out of 10, these are the 3 common perk class setups that I would use. So I don't have to actually talk about these perks throughout the entire video. There are a few class setups that use 9 out of 10 pick 10 slots, and more than likely in those cases, you're just going to go with scavenger, but you could really pick whatever perk you want at that point. And on the opposite end, there are a few that use 6 out of the 10, and that leaves you with an extra pick 10 slot, so you can kind of rearrange the class setup however you'd like, and that's really going to be up to you. So more than likely, if you're going to go on a little bit longer streaks, you're going to want to make sure you run scavenger, and if not, you can go ahead and run crash, and that is a good alternative to save that particular pick 10 slot. Then there's gung ho and dexterity. Those are both popular. Everyone has their reasons for going with either of those. Personally, I like gung ho over dexterity, but to each their own. There's also dead silence, which I'm a huge fan of. It kind of counters that acoustic sensor, which was again recently nerfed. So you can go ahead and go with ghost. I know a lot of people like that, but personally I don't even think ghost is necessary in this game. And then you also have tac mask and flak jacket. And in case you guys didn't know, they reworked how tactical mask as well as flak jacket work. They took away the fire and radiation resistance from tactical mask and put it on flak jacket. So it added a little bit more value there, so you have a little bit more survivability. And then with the addition of the brand new specialist, Outrider has the ability to shoot those explosive tip arrows that could blow you up. So you get a little bit more survivability in case they're a little bit off target with that flak jacket. So there's a couple different reasons why I use those, but these are the primary perks that I would stick to if you're creating any kind of class setup. Also, with all the class setups, there is an assumption that you're going to be picking a piece of gear that suits your playstyle. Obviously, if you're going to go with body armor or acoustic sensor, stim shot, or ComSec device, or whatever the case is, it will be counting as one of those pick 10 slots in the class setups going forward. So first, to start it off, rifles. So there you can see all the class setups for you on screen. I have the ICR-7 with their reflex, grip 1, grip 2, and then FMJ. This one was left untouched, so it doesn't really see a change when it comes to that creative class. For the Rampart 17, you can see it has the reflex, high caliber 1, high caliber 2, and grip. And that one's pretty much untouched as well, even though it had a slight buff to its range of about 3 meters. The KN has the extended mags, rapid fire, suppressor, and stock. Overall, you can see this one takes 8 out of the 10 pick 10 slots, and even though this one had a slight buff to its max damage range of about 2 meters, this one is going to feel a lot stronger because of all the nerfs that were carried out to a lot of the stronger weapons. We move over to the Vapor XKG, and this one's going to be running the ELO, the suppressor, rapid fire, and stock. And overall, the Vapor should feel a lot stronger because it received one of the biggest buffs by increasing its 5-hit kill range by approximately 50%, bumped up from about 35 meters all the way up to about 50 meters, which is a huge jump in my opinion. They also went ahead and reduced the idle sway that happens when you aim down sight, which is another buff. So with all the changes to this weapon, I definitely expect it to be one of the more popular weapons in the near future. And with that, that's going to go ahead and bring us to the most nerfed weapon probably in this entire update, and that is the Maddox RFB. And overall, you can see the class setup is pretty much the same. The only real difference you can do with this class setup is to swap that elo for a reflex sight, and that's because they went ahead and nerfed the stability you get from running the elo. But it's definitely going to be preference, because when they went ahead and nerfed some stuff, they made it so that you get a little bit more recoil in the first few shots. They went ahead and nerfed the speed boost you get from Quick Draw 1 and Quick Draw 2. The strafe speed bonus from using stock was also nerfed. They also went ahead and nerfed the max range by about 8% or roughly 3 meters. So all in all, it's not going to be anywhere near as good as it was before the update. So the Maddox RFB is no longer one of the best SMGs and rifles in the game. It's definitely middle of the pack at this point. And that brings us to the SWAT RFT. And since this one was untouched in the update, we have pretty much the same class setup. 8 out of 10 pick 10 slots, extended mags, high caliber, long barrel, and stock. So that's going to go ahead and bring us into the SMG category. And you can see right here we have the MX9 with a reflex sight, high caliber, rapid fire, and the hybrid mags. And for the MX9, it got a slight buff by 2 meters to its 5-hit kill range. And then it also has improved ADS speed. And for the GKS, you can see we're running that extended mags, grip 1, grip 2, and quick draw. And even though the GKS only had a slight buff of about 2 meters to its 5-hit kill range, I expect the GKS to be way more popular, especially with the nerfs that were handed out. Even though a lot of the nerfs were slight, I can see this one having a lot more value in the meta. So for the Spitfire, we have stock, extended mags, quick draw, and FMJ. So this one got nerfs to its range of about 2 meters, reduced the movement speed with stock. It got a nerf to its ammo capacity when running extended mags, and then also fast mags becomes less effective. For the Cordite, we're running rapid fire, long barrel, and that belt feed operator mod. Overall, the Cordite got a nerf to its belt feed operator mod, so it takes a little bit longer if you overheat on the weapon, and then it got a nerf to grip, which isn't in the class setup. So overall, I was able to pretty much keep the class setup the way it is. That brings us to the SOG 9mm, which got hit with a hefty nerf. They reduced the sprint out speed, they reduced the base movement speed, so now it matches all the other SMGs. In case you guys didn't know, the SOG 9mm actually had a faster movement speed, and on top of having the double stock and all that nonsense, so now its movement speed is in line with the other SMGs. And then it got nerfed on its stock 1, stock 2 attachment. Also, the stability you get from running grip, and then dual wield had some other issues that they went ahead and nerfed. So overall, it got nerfed all the way around, but this still ends up being pretty much the best class setup. You could still run that grip if you want instead of the fast mags, but it really comes down to preference. That brings us to the Damon 3XB, and you could either go with the reflex optic or that compound optic where you can kind of switch between the distances. Personally, I went with the reflex sight, high cal 1, high cal 2, and that hybrid mags. The Damon 3XB did get a slight buff to its range of about 3 meters, but we'll see how noticeable that is. I thought the weapon was pretty strong overall. Definitely not overpowered. We'll see how that range buff actually affects its time to kill. And that brings us to the brand new DLC weapon, which is the Switchblade X9. You can see right here I'm running stock, rapid fire, hybrid mags, and FMJ. This is just about the best class setup I could find with this weapon. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this weapon. If you run this without a hybrid mags, you're out of your mind. You're not going to be able to get double kills, triple kills. This is probably going to be better suited for the hardcore community because in my opinion, it is not a good core weapon. This is the best class setup I found. Hopefully you can enjoy it once you unlock the weapon. It is tier 100, so keep in mind that even if you haven't unlocked it yet, you're not missing out on much. And that brings us to the tactical rifles, which in my opinion have been broken because of this update. Mainly the Auger DMR. We're running the reflex sight, high cal 1, high cal 2, and FMJ. This one got a buff to its strafe speed as well as an increased rate of fire. And if you want to mix it up a little bit, you can drop the optic and FMJ for double tap. And for the ABR 223, you can see I'm running the ELO sight, suppressor, quick draw, and extended mags. This one did get a buff to its strafe speed as well as its sprint out time, so you could easily swap out that quick draw for stock if you have that preference. The Swordfish also got a buff to its strafe speed as well as an improved ADS speed when you use quick draw 2. I don't usually use quick draw too much on the Swordfish, but I might have to experiment with that a little bit. But here's the class setup I would use initially: reflex sight, hybrid mag, high caliber, and the Penta Burst. So when it comes to the LMGs, the only LMG that was really touched in any way was the Titan, and overall I don't think it was enough. They did reduce the damage output, so it's always going to be 4 shots to kill. I guess there was a scenario if you got 3 headshots, it would only be 3 shots to kill. So they kind of went ahead and adjusted that so you always die in 4 shots. They also made it so that you flinch more when you're hit, and then you also have a reduced strafing speed. So the class setup I recommend is not going to be a thermal sight. You can go ahead and use that if you want. I am not a fan of telling people to use that. I'd rather you just get better at aiming and spotting targets. So the reflex sight's going to be the way to go. FMJ1, quick draw and extended mags. If you feel like you need a little bit better strafing speed, you can actually swap out one of these attachments for stock. And then if you want to use this to shoot down streaks, even though that got nerfed as well, you can easily swap out FMJ2 for either quick draw or extended mags. So for the Hades, I'm actually a fan of the Hades because it has that suppressor. We're going to go ahead and use the reflex sight, hybrid mags, and rapid fire, so it's a little bit more competitive. If you want to go with the crossbar approach, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Even though you get an extra mobility, I think this is the overall best Hades class setup. And for the VKM, we're going to be running the reflex sight, high caliber 1, high caliber 2, and rapid fire. The VKM has been pretty much left untouched, so if you wanted to run that fat barrel, you could do that as well by dropping the optic. But overall, I think this weapon definitely needs high caliber 1, high caliber 2, and rapid fire. And that brings us to the snipers, aka everyone's favorite weapon when they're going for camo challenges. Just kidding on that. I know a lot of people hate these. I know I didn't really like these challenges at all. My least favorite was the outlaw, but let's go ahead and get into it. The paladin best class setup is high caliber 1, high caliber 2, and stabilizer. And since it only uses 6 out of the pick 10 slots, you can actually equip a pistol in that secondary or a shotgun for those close quarter engagements. So as you can see, for the outlaw, I went with that recon sight, high caliber, rapid fire, and quick draw. And in case you guys didn't know, the outlaw did get a slight buff to its fire rate. We'll kind of see how big of a difference that is, but overall, this is the best class setup for this weapon, in my opinion. And that's going to go ahead and bring us to the SDM. The most important attachment, in my opinion, for the SDM is high caliber, because if you do play core, you will be able to get one-shot headshot kills. And for the rest of the class setup, you can see I went with that holographic sight, extended mags, and grip, because this weapon has a little bit odd recoil, and I think the grip is necessary. And last but not least is the Koshka that I went ahead and went with the ELO, Quick Draw 1, Quick Draw 2, and High Caliber. The Koshka did receive a buff in this update, and now it has less idle sway as well as a faster ADS speed when using Quick Draw 2. That takes care of all the primaries. Let's go ahead and move on to the secondaries, and we're going to start off with pistols. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Strife pistol. See, I'm using a reflex sight, FMJ, extended mags, and a suppressor. For this one, you could easily drop the reflex sight if you don't have a problem with the iron sights. I just kind of put it in there so I'd have an accurate number for that 7 out of 10. Overall, good class setup and wasn't touched in the 1.13 update. That's going to bring us to the RK7 Garrison. And thankfully, this weapon received a buff to all of its damage ranges. But overall, you can see the class setup I went with was extended mags 1, extended mags 2, and the suppressor. And for the Mozu, you can see I went with that compound sight, went with the speed loader, stabilizer, and then I went ahead with that skull splitter. You can easily swap out that stabilizer for a high caliber, because a high caliber on the Mozu actually affects chest and up. So if you put the high caliber on, drop the skull splitter, whatever the case is, it's going to be 2 shots to the chest and above without that skull splitter if you have a high caliber on. So just a heads up, you can easily swap in high caliber. You're not going to be going for those headshots, and you can aim for the chest and above. And that's going to bring us to another DLC weapon, and that's going to be the Cap 45 pistol. And right here, you can see that we went with Rapid Fire 1, Rapid Fire 2, Hybrid Mags, and FMJ. Also untouched in the update, so that's why we kind of left that class setup the way it is. And that's going to go ahead and transition us to the shotgun. So right here, you can see for the MOG 12, I do have that long barrel. I do have the barrel choke, rapid fire, and dragon's breath. And overall, they made a significant change to the MOG 12 when it comes to the dragon's breath. Every time you fired the dragon breath before, it would hit the enemy player and it would deal burn damage over time until the enemy player healed themselves. But now that dragon's breath does a quick breath of damage, so combined with the regular damage of the weapon, you should see a lot more one-shot one kills. So even though the SG-12 strobe light was nerfed, this is still pretty much the best class setup. Extended mags, max load, long barrel, and then you also have that strobe light. And that's going to go ahead and bring us to the brand new DLC shotgun, the Rampage. And even though it looks fairly straightforward and simple, all you really need on the Rampage is hybrid mags and max load. And the reason for that is because pretty much all the other attachments are focused on aiming down sight, and I really think this weapon should be used pretty much in hip fire, holding down that trigger, getting as much damage output as you can in very close quarters. Next up is going to be the launcher. There's not really any options with the launcher. You kind of got the 3 attachments and the optic, but if you're trying to kill people, you really don't need to worry about that optic. Just load up on perks and you should be fine. So here's the best class setup for all the different melee weapons. Obviously we have 3 different ones: the combat knife, the secret Santa, and the cha-ching, which was just recently added, but the main focus is these 5 perks. You're gonna have an extra slot available, so if you want to run a primary weapon with no attachments, you can definitely do that, but this is the class setup I would go with if I'm gonna run only a combat knife, only a secret Santa, or only the cha-ching. And that about wraps up the video. Now you have a best class setup for every weapon in Call of Duty Black Ops 4 after the 1.13 update. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, please remember to hit that like button. And if you watched this point, please make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button with notifications on so you can find your way back to the channel. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, about 90% of the people that are watching my videos on a regular basis are not subscribed, so become one of the subscribed so you'll keep getting Call of Duty content related to news, in-game updates, best class setup, subscriber breakdowns, and tons of tips and tricks on how to improve. Do appreciate all the support on the videos. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.